making a little video to show a little cheap, free, if you will, suspension modification on the Axial Ryft RBX10. What I've done with the front springs is, or shocks I should say, is zero preload, and I put an internal spring, that I guess you call it the spring mod, and I changed the location of the lower shock mount from on the back side of the axle, where you can see here where it mounted stock, to on top of the axle. And I also cut the bump stop in half, so the overall travel is about the same. You get a lot of suspension flex still, but it allowed me to run a little bit lower center of gravity in the front. Helps for stability, obviously. Now the real fun one is on the rear. Top half is still in the stock location. However, the lower mount I moved from the factory location here to on top where the sway bar would normally mount. Now in doing this, I have dramatically reduced the torque twist on the Axial Ryft. Now I did have to clearance the rear half of the cage ever so slightly to allow for the spring and the body not to make contact when the rig flexes, or I should say the cage. Not a huge deal. It's not really much structure there. It's reinforced all over the place, and I've crashed it plenty of times and it hasn't hurt it. So in doing these little cheap free suspension modification or shock relocation, the torque twist has been reduced, the overall stability has been reduced, zero preload on the rear shocks as well, no internal modification on the rear shocks. The added bonus to the shock relocation. Hey Oliver, you want to come and hold the camera for a second?
Yeah.
Just point it right at the Ryft. The overall suspension articulation is still amazing. The off-road stability is better, and there's no sway bar to limit your articulation for those of you who like to have articulation, which I do. Still has all the suspension travel, with the exception the front's been slightly reduced by approximately 10 millimeters overall. And we're going to take it out for a rip and see how the torque twist has been reduced. Stay tuned.